There we go. I did it. I did it. So panelists, give me thumbs up if you're okay if we record this. Awesome. I am thrilled to have such a large panel. We have 6 panelists tonight joining us for careers in healthcare. And if my math is correct, 24 minus 7 is 17 students. So I'm super excited to have and host this careers in healthcare panel tonight. I've got a lineup, super diverse offering of alumni who have given their time. So I can't thank you enough for saying yes. Many of you always say yes. And so I'm going to continue to ask as long as you keep saying yes, because it's super helpful. So in my new role as director of alumni career development, part of that is to find opportunities um, to bring alumni and students together. And so this is a series of 10 panels that we're doing this spring um, that bring students and alumni together in these high interest career fields. So healthcare is big at Wake Forest, and so I'm super excited to get us started. So next week, I'm going to give myself a shameless plug. Wednesdays at 5 o'clock, you can always depend on a panel just like this one. And next week, we're going to do careers and sustainability and ESG. So if you have any interest in working in those fields, join us again next Wednesday. And so before I introduce our panelists, I wanted to share a couple of resources with the students. And so again, Wake Forest is full of unbelievable resources. And we get a lot in career services, we get a lot of students who aren't even aware of those resources. And so I just want to pull two today to make sure you know other ways to find alumni that you can connect with and that you can network with that will help you not only figure out what could possibly be next, what kind of career path to take, but they can absolutely help in the job search as well. So the first one that I want to share with you is for everyone who is a part of the Wake Forest family, and that is our career communities. And so I'll drop this in the chat, this link, but you can find Wake Forest communities all over the United States and abroad by just clicking on these dots. And I had clicked on Washington, D.C., and you can see that if you happen to be in Washington, D.C., you can see some upcoming events. And then what's really interesting are these volunteers. They're alumni who have raised their hand that said they wanted to help in some impactful way. And so it's a good way to get plugged into certain areas that you might be interested in moving to post graduation. It's there for alumni too. So if you're looking to make a move from one city to another, this is a really fantastic resource. For our School of Business friends, we have some great resources that are launched off of the School of Business website. If you go to just Wake Forest School of Business and launch your career, you choose career and professional development. We have members of our alumni council who have raised their hand and said, I want to help students. It's that easy. You click on their picture and you can see what their background is like, what they specialize in. And then you can even get an appointment right with them by just clicking on schedule appointment. It takes you right to their Calendly link. And so a really great way to get plugged in. If there aren't people on here that you think would be helpful and you have a request to connect with an alum, you can come down here and request an alumni connection, and someone from my team will make some introductions for you. So, it's all right there for you. And I strongly encourage you to take advantage of any opportunity to engage with our fierce alumni network. And so I'm going to get us started, and I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, tell us about your Wake Forest history, what your experience was like at Wake Forest, what program you were in, and where you work, what your title is, and where you live. And so, Hannah, you dialed in first. So I'm going to toss it to you, and then we'll go to Joe next.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Hannah Outlaw. I did undergrad and grad at Wake. So undergrad was health and exercise science. And then I did the bioethics minor. I think it's bioethics, humanities, and medicine is the full title of it. I just call it bioethics. And that was 2018. 2019, I graduated from the Master's in Management program. And currently, I'm back in North Carolina. I live in Roxborough, but I actually work for Duke, and specifically the DCRI. In my position, I write all of the medical grants and proposals for our doctors, for subrecipients. So if we work with Vanderbilt, Carolina, any other universities, and I do all the budgeting, negotiations, and everything, and submit them to the NIH. So that way we can get some funding for different research projects.
Wow, we had some people last week in our government and politics from the NIH. So that's very, very cool. All right, Joe.
Hey everyone, my name is Joe Creighton. I went to the University of Kansas for undergrad, but I got my MSBA at Wake last year. So I graduated in May of 2023. And this is my first year with Cigna. I'm a lead analyst in their analytics leadership development program. So I'm about 8 months into that. And I do like a wide variety of analytics-based projects. I'm fine tuning some of my technical skills, having some impact within the organization, but also spending a lot of time studying new skills and networking within the organization. They really emphasize like development, especially it being a development program. So I'm really enjoying my time so far.
Where do you live?
Oh, sorry. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina. Do you work remote or do you go to the office?
Yeah, so we have like a small office here. It's in Ballantyne, but I never go down there because no one ever goes in. Save money on gas, and I work from home. But we also have a big office in Denver, and that's where I'm from originally. So whenever I go home, I dip into the office there. So
Very cool. All right, JP. Little twist. Little twist.
Hey, JP Rochford, undergraduate class of 2013, and then did my MSA, did the 5-year FinM program at Wake. I am a vice president at QHP Capital. We're a private equity firm based in Raleigh, North Carolina. I live in Raleigh as well, and we are primarily focused on pharmaceutical services. So all of the outsourced services that support pharmaceutical development. So contract research, contract manufacturing, a lot of the technologies that go into clinical trials. So that broad scope of areas where we invest. Been here for about 4 years now.
Very cool. Alex?
I'm Alex Sturgis. I graduated from the Master's Management program in 2013, did my undergrad at Washington and Lee. Originally from Charlotte, but I live out in Whitefish, Montana now. I've spent sort of a large part of my career kind of bouncing around healthcare, did private equity and did healthcare investing, then joined a company called Caregiver out in Texas, where I was the vice president of operations strategy and helped run that business for about 5 years. We sold it a couple of years ago, and then actually most recent, my current role is chief strategy officer of a company called Nutility. So actually not in the healthcare space at the moment, but spent most of my career either investing in healthcare or operating healthcare companies.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Hi, Aubrey.
Hello, how are you?
Really well.
Good. So my name is Aubrey Everett. I did undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill, but did the Master's in Management program at Wake Forest and graduated in 2016. After that, I joined GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, in a rotational development program. So I was able to do a few different roles, including sales, project management, and ultimately offboarded into marketing. So for the last almost 7.5 years. I've been doing marketing and across different disease states. And most recently, I joined Vive Healthcare, which is majority owned by GSK, but also in partnership with Pfizer, which is all centered around HIV. So I am a marketing manager. The last project I worked on was like a commercial. So that was really exciting. And I'm located in Durham, North Carolina. And you didn't ask this specifically, but we're hybrid. So I go in 2 to 3 times a week, and the rest of the time I'm remote.
Are y'all still with the GSK campus, or do you have a different office?
Nope, it's just a different floor. So I used to sit on floor 4. Now I'm on floor 3.
Gotcha. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, I'm Jason Hooker. I graduated from Wake in 2018. I was a business and enterprise management major with a computer science minor. And right now I'm working at a healthcare technology company called Wellframe in Boston, Massachusetts. I am a data scientist with the company. And the company is a software as a service company that we license to health insurance plans to offer the nurses that they employ a way to offer digital care management to high-risk members of the plan. So we create a lot of content called care programs that's meant to offer the most relevant content to people at the right time. So people who might have diabetes or who are trying to lose weight or are pregnant, offering them things to help them along their kind of health journey. And it also offers a way for nurses to stay in contact with those members via chat feature. So helping communication between nurses and the people they manage as well.
Oh, wow. Well, let's stay with you and let's take a little deeper dive into Wellframe and how you got there. And I love hearing about recent projects that you worked on. So give us a little deeper dive into the day of Jason Hooker at Wellframe.
Sure. So I guess I'll start with how I got there, a quick recap on that. So from Wake, I worked at a healthcare consulting company as a data analyst, and that's where I kind of got acquainted with the healthcare industry and really liked working in that space. I also liked the data aspect of it and wanted to kind of dive a bit deeper. So went into the data science route. A long job search led me not to a job, but back to school. So I did go back for a master's in data science. And from there, I landed at Wellframe as a data scientist in Boston. So a lot of the projects we've worked on have centered around sort of showcasing how we help members actually be healthier in their day-to-day life. So one way we do that is through claims analyses. We receive medical claims from a lot of our health insurance plan customers. So trying to quantify the impact we have on members' lives by, such things as how much money do we save plans on members who are going to the hospital less, who use Wellframe versus not using us. We also spend a lot of time working with some patient-reported outcomes data. So we provide surveys for members who are trying to lose weight or manage their blood sugar or blood pressure. So kind of in the simplest sense, just tracking to see, hey, did these people who are on these programs successfully lose weight or decrease their blood sugar or blood pressure? So that's been some rewarding things to work on as we find we actually did help some people. I think the most exciting project that we're working on right now is building in a feature into the app that uses generative AI. I know that's a bit of a buzzword right now, but we found something that would actually be useful, specifically to staff members at the health plans. As I mentioned, there's this chat feature with tons of data, these whole conversation histories that kind of just get lost in the ether unless the nurse is really diligent about taking notes on what's said in the chat. So we're working on a feature that uses generative AI to basically summarize the important things that have happened in the past in these chat histories. So exciting, kind of relatively cutting edge stuff going on right there. That's fun to work on.
So is the end goal to try not only to make them healthier, but to keep them out of maybe the ER or doctor's visits and to alleviate some of that pressure off the system?
Exactly. Yeah. With kind of our forefront customers being the health insurance plans, that goal is really, help them save money. And we do that by having the members, be healthier and staying out of the hospital, staying out of the emergency room and stuff like that. So end goal is, healthier members, but we kind of try to do that. We make money from the health insurance plans. So it's reduced their costs among their member population.
look at this cross. I didn't even plan it. Joe works for a healthcare provider, and Jason helps healthcare providers save money. Brilliant. All right, Aubrey, you talked about that commercial. Let's hear some more about that commercial and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, sure. So, across my time in marketing, I've done some like marketing and healthcare professionals, but about 2.5 years ago, I landed in consumer marketing or direct to patient marketing, which was really exciting. So, a lot of the work that I do is really aimed on awareness of the brand that I was working on at the time, which was Nucala. It's for people living with severe eosinophilic asthma. You may see the commercial, so if you do, think of me. It makes me very happy. But yeah, so just working on a lot of tactics that you would see out in the world, either like on websites, you see web banners, things that you would see like on social media across Meta, so Facebook, Instagram. We launched on TikTok last year, but the biggest thing that took almost a year, maybe even like 15 months to get off the ground was our TV ad. So we started with very, very small, just like insights, went into market research that really led to like strategic territories, that led to creative concepts. And eventually last August, we did shoot the commercial in Toronto, which was very exciting. And we really use like patient insights to grow what the campaign is, to help patients know that there are options out there for them, to help manage their condition. And now it's like finally coming to fruition now that it's live in market. So I work with my team to make sure that we are bringing through this strategy of the brand. And so a lot of the work that we do is primarily like bringing those insights, putting them into materials that we would disseminate, and then going in front of our regulatory, medical and legal colleagues to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a situation that we don't want to be in. So they make sure that everything is in order, and then we work with our agency partners to get it out, like I like to call it, in the wild, or get it out towards the public. So that's what I do.
And so is Viv, you call it Viv, right?
Vive, yeah.
VIIV, Viv. And
Mhm.
so Viv is their mission is to help and assist through technology or through product how to live with HIV and AIDS.
Yes. So I recently joined V starting January 8th. And so it is also like a healthcare company. So it has products for treatment and prevention of HIV. So people may hear like PrEP. Vive has a long acting injectable where you don't have to take a pill every day. Then for the treatment of HIV, they have several products, including pills and an injectable. So I am doing marketing with those brands now, which are Cabenuva and Apertude, with Vive Healthcare, where previously I was working with severe asthma with GSK and lupus. And so I've been kind of like had the opportunities to do a few different things, which has been amazing, and really be, connecting the science and healthcare with the creative side. But yeah, so working with Vive, I do similar work, helping bring patients to a solution that might work for them.
That's fantastic. It's good work. It's very good work. All right, Alex, I know you took a little bit of detour out of healthcare, but if you could kind of explain how you got into the healthcare industry. You said Caregiver was sold, so it's no longer a company, right? And any other things that you think would be really helpful for students to know about the current firm you're working for?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about my time at Caregiver, because I was in private equity world and really I kind of like wanted to just go deeper with one company, and really thought I liked wanted to really focus on one company, help operate, help grow. So joined a private equity backed company called Caregiver. And my role really was kind of that right hand man to the CEO. They had brought in a new CEO, and there was really a lot to do and not a lot of people to do it. So that was kind of where he brought me in. Is that, hey, there's there's a lot of challenges this company's facing that we need to get fixed. And so I sort of stepped into a lot of different roles, whether it was HR and then M&A and then operations, is where I spent a lot of my time. We were a Medicaid funded company, was our revenue source, our payer. and this, there's the rates generally aren't very high. So you got to figure out how to provide high quality care. And I guess I'll take a step back. What Caregiver does is we do provide group homes for people with developmental disabilities. So kind of like a nursing home, but instead of a large facility, it's a lot of individual, 3-4 bedroom homes, your standard kind of single family home.
Wow.
We would operate that and staff them 24/7 and then take care of the individuals who live there. So we sort of had to do a little bit of everything in terms of actual staffing. There was nursing, we had, transportation to doctor's appointment, and then as well as just quality of life. How can we help these individuals live an independent life, whether they want to try to get a job, they want to try to graduate high school, or whatever they're able to do. And so my largest role was really traveling around to our various operations throughout the country and working with our area leaders to try to figure out where are the best areas for us to invest in to improve the quality of care, make things more efficient. It's an industry that is very not very progressive or advanced. We were paper based when I got there, and we literally had storage units and those storage containers you see on like cargo ships, literally just full of paper that we had stored, and it was just nothing had been updated. And so a lot of this is inefficient. This is creating mistakes and low quality of care because people can't find the piece of paper that the doctor prescribed. And so a big, we had let's put in an ERP system, let's digitize this, let's create these records. And, processes like that kind of relate that, the two wins of, okay, it's more efficient, saves money for the company, but also second is, well, it does provide a higher quality of care. So ran that business, helped to run that business for about 5 years. And then we sold to another private equity company. So Caregiver's still around, but that was, I felt, a good time to exit, to look to do something else. I was happy to dive in more, but I was definitely kind of the operational side. I thought it was just super interesting trying to, on that business side where it's okay, increase revenue, decrease cost. But there's, when you're in the healthcare world, this third factor of, well, there's quality of care that is, you have to balance. And often it's the most important thing. And so you can't always just do that equation of, cost down or revenue up, because the impact on the patient you're taking care of, or the person you're charged to take care of is just not worth it, even though kind of, so connecting it from this sort of, okay, well, the model looks good and the Excel, calculation looks good, but what does it impact? How does it impact the people?
Yeah.
And so that was always a fascinating discussion to have of where is that line? How do you value the different aspects? That was sort of a lot of what I did.
And did you leave one private equity backed firm and go to another private equity backed firm?
So no, my current company is more in the startup world. It's actually venture backed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep thinking about finance and investing, and hear from JP.
Yeah.
He was an accountant, now investor.
Yeah. So I was in the MSA program, so started my career at KPMG. Ended up through a Wake connection getting into investment banking and spent about 3 years in that. Ended up going to work. We were fundraising for a startup. Ended up going to work for them, and as startups sometimes do, it didn't really start up. And then was getting back into the finance world, was going through the private equity recruiting process, and ended up at QHP. And that was really my first foray into healthcare, into life sciences. So I've been here about 4.5 years now. I've been drinking from the fire hose the entire time. The life sciences in particular really loves their acronyms and different, it's high science. So there's definitely a learning curve. But yeah, I currently work with 4 of our portfolio companies, Catalyst Clinical Research, which is an oncology contract research organization. I work with Informed DNA, which is a genetic counseling business. I work with Auto Recruitment, which is our digital patient recruitment platform. And then I work with Applied Stem Cell, which is a contract research organization, as well as a contract manufacturing organization focused on induced pluripotent stem cells. So kind of all over the place. But most of my time currently is spent with our existing portfolio companies, but obviously we're always looking to invest as well. So I'd say depending on the time, I split it about 50-50 between new opportunities and our existing portfolio. Right now, it's more like 70-30 with the existing portfolios keeping up a lot of my time. But yeah, so it, not exactly the straightest route to private equity, but one of the questions probably will come up is, advice for students, and like, you don't need a straightforward career path to do well. And I think that's something that's been a big takeaway for me as I've advanced in my career, is that things are, there's a very linear path that people imagine, and it doesn't always go that way, and that's all right.
We call it a more lattice approach.
Yeah. Those you learn a lot from those detours, I will say. So, but yeah.
So how do you stay relevant with all that healthcare? Like, that's a major shift from accounting to healthcare. And so other than Googling all the time, are there other things that you've found helpful to get yourself in the same sandbox?
For me, I probably spend the first 45 minutes to an hour of most days just trying to keep up with a bunch of different newsletters, mostly ones that are particular to our industry. So for us, it's like Fierce Pharma, it's Endpoints, it's Axios has a couple good health tech newsletters. But I spend a good amount of time just trying to keep up on the trades, what's happening, who else is investing in the space. So we get information from bankers, going through that. But a lot of it's learning on the fly. I'll be honest, AI has already come up, but if it's a very complex part of science that my last science class at Wake was like freshman year. So that, I will definitely go and ask every once in a while, ask ChatGPT to explain something to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And that definitely has helped me once or twice. But there's definitely a learning on the fly part of it. And, I'd say banking was helpful for that. I was working for a generalist firm. We invested in everything from healthcare, or we were selling companies in everything from healthcare to Planet Fitness franchises to third-party logistics companies. It was a new deal every couple months in a completely new industry. So you had to learn how to get smart quick on a space. So that was very helpful.
Very cool. All right, Joe, let's hear all about it.
Sure. So not quite as interesting probably or exciting yet. Pretty early into my career, but one thing that I will say about my career that's cool is the learning aspect. So in terms of like how structured it is. So like I said, I'm in the ALDP.
Oh no. Oh no, we lost Joe. Come back to us, Joe. All right, Hannah, you want to jump in until we get Joe back?
Of course. Yeah. So I would say I'm a lot like JP in the fact of it has not been
A lot of associate. Did I cut out there?
Yeah, Joe, you froze up. So we missed you. We lost you when you started talking about the learning aspect. So Hannah, I'll get back to you. Let's let Joe go.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Sorry, I figured I did because everyone was frozen, but I just kept talking. So learning, I'm learning a lot. I'm in the ALDP program. I think, as I said earlier, And that stands for Analytics Leadership Development Program. So my day is split between connecting with people in the organization, and doing, I guess, my role work. And the team I'm on does network and contract analytics. So we look into contracts that Cigna enters into with providers, and we help them optimize those, some sense of the word. So project I'm working on right now currently is trying to understand how hospitals project their utilization. So like CT scans or MRIs, like trying to understand how they would project forward for a calendar year, how many, of those services they're going to provide. Because a lot of times we don't know that. And so we enter into a contract with them, and then they can overutilize a certain service, not in an unethical way, but in a way that we didn't anticipate. And so we're, losing money when we probably should have negotiated a better deal for ourselves. So right now I'm doing a lot of deep dive into our claims data, trying to understand and forecast out the spend that a hospital might do. It's a cool project, but the one thing that I think is challenging is that, being someone who's coming out of school with a master's degree, expect a lot, which is rightfully so. But it's a lot to work on, and I'm working alone. And I think that is a challenge. So it's definitely forced me to have to network outside of just my immediate team, to look for help, for, certain coding issues, certain conceptual stuff. We talk about learning. Obviously, I don't have a whole lot of experience with healthcare, being a student my whole life. So I'm also having to learn a lot every day. Definitely use stuff like ChatGPT to make sure that I'm understanding things. And then, yeah, so that's, I guess, the role work side. And then outside of that, I'm given some leadership responsibilities within the program. So I'm helping, plan and lead a team that's gonna host our orientation in Connecticut in July for all the new associates.
Wow.
And I'm connecting with people within the organization to, work on some other projects and stuff. So there's two sides to it, but it's been really cool so far, and I'm definitely enjoying it. And say that you don't necessarily need to, passion for healthcare to do this work, but you have to be willing to learn and able to learn. I think that's a big thing.
Learning never stops. Neither does the networking.
True.
Always networking. Always networking. All right, Hannah, let's hear all about it.
Yeah. So like I was saying, a lot like what JP said, my path to Duke has been anything but a straight line. Fresh out of the program, I worked in professional sports. Then I left professional sports and went into private wealth management and did that for a couple years. COVID hit. Had a kid, so left that, didn't want to move back into DC into the cold. So then I got into another sales position, actually doing tech sales, and did a lot with that. But even, healthcare side, I got to work with Pfizer on that. So that was a lot of fun. But always known I wanted to work for Duke. Like that was always a dream for me. Grew up 30 minutes from campus, back in my hometown now, actually, and use a lot of my connections, a lot of networking to be able to get the position. And so now the amount of different tasks that I do is kind of, we could be here all day with the laundry list. It's a million different things. It's not just one thing that I do, but the way I could really break it down is there's pre-award, there's post-award. Pre-award, hey, we find out that the NIH has money and they're trying to solve this issue. Doctor will come to me and say, hey, I want to do some research for this. So we really dive into writing out the study, what they're going to do, the budget, who's going to be subrecipients on it. Do we want to add other universities on there? What doctors do they want to work with? What staff do they need? All of the budgeting, all of the scientific justifications, budget justifications, really everything, and following the NIH guidelines through all of this, because the big thing with it is we do something wrong, that's on us. And that's actually jail time for us if
Oh
we
my,
mess it up.
oh
So
my,
yeah,
Jill.
so
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
bad.
pressure with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no pressure.
And then the second half on the other end of that is post award. So hey, we won, we got the money. They'll hand you over $60 million for the next year study, and it's balancing that, tracking those dollars. How are they being used? Are they efficient? Are we getting progress reports like we need to? So really balancing. It's a lot of budgeting, more than I realized it would be, but having worked in sales and done private wealth management, that kind of paid off perfectly in that aspect, I guess. And it's a lot of fun, but I mean, it's like you almost live in fight or flight in my job. It's always deadlines, and putting out little fires here and there, but it keeps you busy, and it really forces you to use a lot of aspects of your education. You don't just use one thing. It's not, a very repetitive job either. It's something new every day. It's a new issue to solve every day. So if you love scheduling and if you love deadlines, this is like the perfect job.
Well, so just so everyone knows, it's the National Institute of Health, right?
Mm-hmm.
The NIH. And give us an example of a couple of projects that you've been awarded. Like, what kind of research are you trying to are you getting awarded for? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. It's cardiovascular diseases. It's HIV, AIDS. So specifically right now, one thing that I'm working on that's huge is I'm the director of the PTN at Duke. So it's Pediatric Trials Network. And so what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we have these drugs that are used in adults all the time, every day, and to solve an issue. Well, the same issue is happening in pediatric patients, but the medicine is not labeled to be able to work in peds. And so doctors are saying, hey, we're using it in peds, but we don't have the correct labeling. We don't have the correct dosage. And so we actually have, I think, 17 different trials going on right now within Duke, and with subrecipients under each of those, where we're working to relabel medicine and to do studies to figure out, okay, how do we relabel these and how do we get these approved through the FDA for pediatric use? So that, to me, is one of the most satisfying things, especially having little kids. It makes me excited.
That's so impactful. And so really, really good stuff. So the next question I have for the panel, and we'll go in the reverse order. So I'm going to start with Hannah, go the other way. Talk about relevancy and like what kind of technology. We've talked about ChatGPT. We don't need to be shying away from it. It's a real thing. It's not cheating. It's being resourceful. But what other types of technology are you using on a daily basis?
So specifically for my position, it's very it really is very specific to what I do. So we have like a grants application software called SPS that we use daily. We use Salesforce. That's more widely known, but everyone knows it's kind of written specifically for your company. So we have a specific Salesforce that we use. Really, and I hate to say this, Excel is my best friend. Between all the budgeting I do, like I don't think I could get through a day without having like 10 Excel sheets open at a time. So that's huge. But past that, I mean, a lot of it is just proprietary software that we use, nothing crazy. And the nice thing about my job is it's not always using some new software. Something new doesn't drop every day for writing grants that we're required to use. But we have started to look into ChatGPT a little bit, using some AI just to help with some of the very basic scientific writing. So it's not trying to reinvent the wheel every single time. You have to write something that would be more generic and that could be repeated.
Very cool. Joe, same question. You using Python or using R or using Excel? Like,
Sure. Yeah. So within the program, like everyone's on kind of a different team, right? So there's some other students that, or I guess they're not students anymore, some other people that were at Wake with me that are also doing this program. And so they use some different technology than me, but I specifically use SQL and Excel every day. My important to have right now. And then in the program, we learned R. So I haven't used R for my role work yet. I know some people that have, but they also are, within the program, they teach you and let you take courses on other programming languages. So I've done some courses on Python, so I know how to use Python now. Haven't used that either, but hopefully I will someday soon. I know
We're
some other
teaching
people.
Python now.
Oh yeah, I know. I heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, both R and Python are valuable to know. So,
But
um,
SQL and Excel is where you spend most of your time.
yes, correct. SQL and
Can't
Excel are
sleep on
my,
SQL. Cannot sleep on SQL. Yeah.
no, it's
Good stuff.
super important, super useful.
All right, JP, what are you using over there in investor relations?
No SQL. I'd say most of my time, yes, Excel, because it's unavoidable and that's where we do a lot of our modeling and forecasting. But I would say the other parts where we spend a lot of time is helping our companies with just their CRMs, spend a lot of time digging into people's sales forces, spend a little bit of time in HubSpot, and then their accounting system. So have some read access to a lot of our portfolio companies, QuickBooks or NetSuites. So we'll be digging into that. And then I'd say the other area where we spend a lot of time is just any type of project management technology. So we use Monday.com a lot. Wish I was more of a power user in it. I'm just basically using it as a fancy Gantt chart. But it just when it comes to keeping people on task, and then obviously anything in the Microsoft suite. But
That project management stuff is not ever going to go away, and they seem to be popping up every day.
Yeah, choose your poison on which one you're going to use, but we've just kind of become a Monday shop. So it works well for us. I'd say anytime we make an investment, we have, call it 5 to 6 key initiatives that we're immediately focused on. So keeping track on how we're doing against those initiatives is really important, and kind of sets the framework, because we're investing a lot of time in founder-owned businesses. So there is plenty of things to go attack, but if you try to tackle them all at once, it's just you're setting yourself up to fail. It's keeping focused on the most important things for us is really the key.
Very cool. Alex, what kind of technology do you use every day?
Yeah, so caregiver, the big thing we were working on was a big ERP system, just an enterprise software where we could track, enter data for our patients, understand the people we were taking care of, have that centralized. So that was a big thing, kind of company wide, that most people were using every day. For me, largely, Excel I sort of like JP started in banking, private equity. So you just sort of get Excel ingrained into you as your sort of first go-to. So I find that no matter kind of what you end up doing, Excel is probably going to be helpful in some way. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. For modeling, forecasting, but also just for me to organize data, sort things, just help identify trends. Is if I can get it in Excel, then I can generally, do some sort of formula to help, analyze information and sort things. So that was largely where I spent most of my time. It was always caregiver. We were trying to figure out where we can implement technology, and also try to figure out which technologies were the most accessible, because most of our employee base was lower skilled, lower education, so we can't have a complicated system. Needed to for them to even just clock in, clock out of work. If it's complicated, they just wouldn't do it, and then you have problems on the back end. So it's you know, a lot of the softwares that we would look at would always, you know, all these cool features, all these interesting things that would, you know, make our lives easier, but no one would actually use them. So those always would
There's that.
make for interesting decisions to make of what is usable versus what is helpful, and how can you find something that can hopefully do both.
Right. Our time is slipping away so quickly. So, Aubrey, Jason, can y'all add to any other technology platforms that you use that keep you relevant and keep you productive?
I think everything has pretty much been said, but I would definitely have to give a huge shout out to PowerPoint as well. I build a lot of decks, do a lot of presentations. So I'm getting more comfortable with that. And everything else, kind of like Hannah said, is job specific. So I'll leave it there.
Very good. Jason?
I second that. I was going to give shout out to PowerPoint too. You know, I think with data science, a lot of work is in the analyses, but your analyses really are only as good as how well you present the results. So being able to put together a good slide deck is super important. Credit to Wake for that.
Yeah, it's communication skills, right? They're written
Mhm.
communication skills, the ability to put together a really good, succinct deck. All right, so before I turn it over to questions, so students, be ready in about 5 minutes to ask some really good questions to the panelists. I want you each to put on your student hat for just a second, if you can remember back that far. Joe may have the easier time here. But think about yourself, right, as a student, and you're getting ready to graduate from either undergrad or your master's programs. What kind of advice would you give yourself that will hopefully resonate with these students as they, right, embark on this next big journey for what's next for them after Wake? And so, Jason, I'm going to start with you. We'll go backwards
Sure.
quickly.
This touches on a theme that people have talked about here with kind of nonlinear paths, but I think the biggest advice I would give myself looking back is just throw yourself out there, you know, get involved in a lot of things, do things that you wouldn't normally maybe even be super interested in, because you'd be shocked how much you can learn or even, you know, take an entirely different path. I think that those kind of first years out of college are not great ones to just live in your comfort zone. So try to find ways to get out of it. And you'll be super happy you did later
Great
on.
advice. Aubrey?
Yeah, I would say to that, stay curious and don't be afraid to try something because you don't think you'll be great at it the first time. So give your chance the ability to try something. And if it's not the path you want to continue on, you can always hop to something else as long as you are curious and keep yourself, you know, true to yourself. But be curious, but have confidence that either way it's gonna lead to something great.
Alex?
I'd say find, whether it's, yeah, normally it's in job, but also other places, find what's probably that hardest thing to do. That's where you're going to learn the most. Again, it kind of leads into getting out of your comfort zone, but pushing yourself, especially early in your career, leaves so many doors open, because odds are most you don't know what you want to do long term. You're sort of, this is interesting, this is where my major was, and that's totally fine. That's, you know, probably the place, you know, most people are, and they should be, because you're still learning and growing. But helping position yourself, so when you do realize, like when I was in the finance world, I realized I want to be more operational, I want to actually run a company. Oh, I've been able to kind of get in a spot where that door was open to go join a company at a level that I wanted to be in, to kind of do what I wanted to do. And so I think a lot of that helped because, yeah, I pushed myself out of the comfort zone, took on projects, took on roles and things that I didn't know if I could do or if I thought would be in over my head, but it was, I'll figure this out. And that allowed me to grow, personally and professionally at a much faster rate than I would have if I just sort of sat with well, here's what the expected plan is.
Or complacency, sitting with complacency.
Exactly.
Good advice. JP?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely reiterate the non-linear path is okay. Like you're gonna have, it's LinkedIn is like effectively like Instagram when you're like in college, where you're like everybody's doing better and advancing faster than me. It's not the case. Like it's a very long journey, and like be comfortable in that. I'd also say just leverage the resources of whatever organization you're in. Like if you're at a large institution, whether like I started at KPMG, if you're at Wake, like y'all are doing it already by being on this, sitting here at this panel, but like Wake's got a ton of resources. If you're at a big organization to start your career, like it's one of those things where you gotta, it's not just going to be handed to you. You got to ask for it. But like take advantage. Like it's not just salary that those companies are going to be giving you. It's going to be education opportunities. It's going to be travel opportunities. Also, when you're young, just travel more and like take some shots. Like take advantage. Like now's the time. Like opportunity cost only gets higher as you advance in your career. So like when you're young, like definitely roll the dice a little bit and have some fun.
Roll the dice and have some fun. Joe, it was 8 months ago. What would you do different?
Yeah. Let's see, what would I do different? I would say that or something I recently heard was the first 10 years of your career should be like just focused on learning, nothing else. And then, after that, you set yourself up hopefully for success to earn, if that's your goal. So, and that kind of took, some weight off my shoulders. So I would say really focus on learning even past school. And sometimes that means being willing to like leave some money on the table. Take a job where you think you'll learn a lot more, where you'll be around decision makers rather than a job that just, got a big price tag on it. So I think that's something that I kind of wish I would have thought of 8 months ago. Outside of that, I think, as Aubrey was saying, just like stay curious, keep learning. If there's something that you're interested in, and you find yourself thinking about it a lot, buy a book and read about it. I've for some reason was thinking about like astrophysics, and I have no math background, but I was like, you know what, I'll buy like an intro book to that, just read about it. It sounds interesting, and I've really enjoyed it. So just do stuff like that because, like I said, you're super young, you have a lot of time ahead of you, more than you think. So try to learn as much as you can, and then understand that your time is valuable. So if you find yourself in the evenings, like you got your homework done and you're sitting around your phone, maybe get like a group of friends together and start like a book club, or like a young professionals group, and you can like listen to a podcast throughout the week and then like discuss it or something like that. People
We
with
have
common,
lots of those opportunities in the Wake communities to do
yeah,
those kind of
exactly.
mentoring groups.
Utilize what Sharon's giving you through Wake. There's a lot of cool stuff. I try advantage of them, but I probably didn't do as good of a job as I could have. So
You did a
that's, I
great
guess, what I would say.
You did a great job. Great job. All right, Hannah, what kind of advice do you have for these kids?
Yeah, life is gonna happen, and it is rare when things are going to go exactly according to plan, and you have to understand that life is about juggling. And when you think about that, understand that every aspect of your life is a different type of ball. Some are glass, some are rubber. You need to understand what can you afford to drop and know that it's going to bounce back up. Ones that you can't are glass. If you drop them, they're going to shatter, things are going to go downhill. And take the time now before you jump into careers, before you really dive in and try and figure out what's rubber and what's glass. Social life, rubber. You can drop off the grid for a couple months, and I promise you they're going to be there, but your career might not. Family might not. So really take the time to figure that out, because life is going to happen, and you don't need to drop the wrong ball at the wrong time.
All right. Thank you. That is unbelievable advice. I'd love to recap it all in my next TED Talk. But students, we have a few minutes. Who's got some questions? If you got a question, just go off of mute and, of course, say your name and your major, and ask a panelist a question. So who's got a question?
Hi, I have a question. My name is Sky Ying, and I have a question for Joe. So, since you have only graduated from Wake Forest for 8 months, And my question is like, what have you learned from MSBA that has been used the most useful for your current job? Like which course or which skills?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. I learned a ton, both soft and hard skills. Obviously, like you want to take your coding classes and your technical classes very seriously because you'll need to use those. But outside of that, I think just learning to communicate like complicated problems to like a less technical audience was something that I value from Wake, my time at Wake. And then outside of that, I think just being confident to use the skills that I used or learned, excuse me, and use them in my careers. Like I think sometimes you learn something, but you're kind of afraid to like try it out for yourself. I think Wake really gave me the confidence to use the skills that they taught me in the real world.
Great advice.
Thank you.
Madeline has a question, and it's a topic that's near and very dear to my heart. She's asking about advice. So if any of you have ever hired anyone or have ever had to be a part of that hiring process, this might be a question for you. But what advice do you have for Madeline and the rest of the students here on what you think made you stand out on your resume when looking for entry-level jobs or applying to grad school? Is there something on or off campus that helped you get into healthcare?
I know I found my opportunity with GSK after a career fair through the MSN program. So I felt like it was definitely helpful to have like the staff look over my resume before then. But I would say when you're crafting the resume, make sure you understand your story and what you want to show, like what skills you're trying to demonstrate, because it's not just like separate tasks or things that you've done, but really all leading up to what makes you the best candidate for the role. And you can craft that story differently depending on the position. But if you know that the role is going to require like analytic skills or some sort of like project management skills, make sure to highlight that in a way that shows that you are capable of doing it. And also don't be afraid to ask people to like look over it for you, or to make sure that what you're trying to communicate comes across the way that you intended to.
Yeah.
Great.
For the resume, I mean, I'm sure the office, job team will have a lot of help to be able to make that look interesting and compelling. I always found whatever sort of extracurricular activities that I always read those just because I don't know, to me that's the one way you can sort of get a glimpse a bit into someone outside of the professional. And so I've had a lot of times where people resonate with, they bring it up as, oh, I see you, we're a Boy Scout, right? You did this. And so I have, conversations about that. But for jobs, I've always had just more success networking than any resume drop. I think that is probably, reaching out through the alumni network, whether it's your high school or Wake Forest or just your, friends and family, find that like people are very willing to help. I think there's some study on like people are more willing to help like kind of secondary connections that they have of like kind of a friend of a friend is like, will you reach out to someone for me? People are very willing to do that. So don't hesitate to reach out to alumni just to set up I want to talk to an informational thing because you work at this company, and then they probably are going to be likely to, well, that's not exactly what I do, but happy to talk about the company. Then you can learn a little bit about them, the company, and then they may connect you to someone in the right department or who's the person hiring. Because then you're elevated above just your resume, and it can be really hard to differentiate just a resume compared to the dozens or hundreds or how many others they get. But if you've had a conversation with one or two people there, now all of a sudden there's hopefully someone who can kind of put your resume to the side and say, we should probably just interview this person because I talked to them and they seem really interested, they seem smart and a person that I like talking with. So wherever possible, try to network. That worked for me for both jobs and for grad school. When I applied for my MBA, when I applied to Wharton, I just called the admissions office and talked, instead of just, hey, here's my resume, I just like walked through, here's who I am, here's what I'm looking to do. And it was very helpful to kind of start that process as well.
Networking is so absolutely critical. But Madeline, I will point you, excuse me, to, if you're an undergrad outside of the business school, you'll go to the OPCD. There's resume drop-in hours there all the time. If you're in the business school, you have an assigned career coach, and that career coach can help you craft your story. Thank you, Aubrey. To where you can tell it on paper. But yeah, Alex is right. Networking it's gotten me every single job that I've ever had in my 30-year career. And so it's a vital part of it. So you have to balance applying and networking. That's going to be what really moves you forward. So we are a little bit over 6 o'clock. I don't want to keep my panelists. They were so gracious in giving us and investing an hour of their life into helping educate you on careers in healthcare. I will poll each one of the panelists and ask them one question that I wanted to ask that we didn't get a chance to ask is what healthcare companies do you know that are hiring that we can point students to? If like a company, someone talked about an ERP, like an Epic. Epic's always going to be hiring. So be thinking about companies that you know who are hiring, and I'll send that around when I follow up after when I have the link to the recording. But let's give these guys a Wake Forest thank you. Give them some thumbs up. Give them some clap hands. Thank you, guys. It was very educational, so helpful, wonderful advice. I wish I had time to recap it all. But again, have a great evening, everyone, and go Deeks.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Thanks.